And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, Tom Vasel here, and today we're taking a look at Brilliance. Yes, that's a pun, and if you don't like puns, you probably don't want to read the rule book because they certainly rubbed this one into the ground. But this is a game about ants, where ants are going out and gathering the different food that they need, whether that food be other little bugs or different pieces of fruit and mushrooms, and dig and make your colony bigger, trying to get the most points. It's a game that has 3 different versions, from a kid's version up to an adult's version. So let's take a look at how the game plays, and we'll be back. There are 3 ways to play Brilliance. There's a kid's version, a apprentice version, and then an expert's version, and they stick the word ants in all of them to be punny. But the versions all play fairly similar. There's some differences, and I'll try to mention them a little bit. But you'll notice here this board is a really big board. There's actually a 2-sided board. This is the board for 4, 5, or 6 players. The other side is for 2 or 3. If you're playing with fewer players, you can cover up sections of the board. So, for example, I could play a 4-player game, like this, for example, by covering up 2 sections of the board, etc. So there's ways to make the board smaller. You're also going to be putting a certain number of these worker spots on the side of the board based on how many players are in the game. So these will just basically be over here. So let's say it's a 6-player game, and we have these over here. Actually, this one would be over here, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so on a player's turn, each player has their own player board. So we're going to take a quick, closer look at this player board here. This is the red player, and he has a bunch of ants. And so you start with a certain number of ants in a kid's game, but we're going to play with like the advanced game. You start with 3 ants of your choice. So I chose 1 of each type of ant. There's soldier ants, there's harvester ants, and then there's digging ants. Now each of them has a very different look to them. You can see here, this is the miniature. The miniatures have to be put together, which is kind of a pain at the beginning of the game, and they have this dial in them. So this means this is daytime, and then you just slide the dial, and it will show that he's moved. And then during the nighttime, I can slide the dial back to show that he's moved. It's a very easy, simple thing to do. The hardest part is just snapping these all together at the beginning of the game. So players on their turn, there's going to be different rounds of the game, and the game's going to end when a certain number of missions have been accomplished. But players on their turn will take action, going around the table until you run out of actions. One of your actions can be to activate a predator, and then you flip your tile to show that you've done it. You can only do it once per round. You can activate one of the 3 predators. Another action you can take is to move one of your ants. And ants have 3 movement usually, but they might have more, so you can move them around in your colony, or you can move them above ground onto the main board. And then another action that you have is to take one of these tiles over here. You just claim that tile, and you will then get a new baby ant. So these tiles are limited, so once they're taken, they're gone. And then players will have more ants that they'll be able to work with. So you're going to want to take those tiles. At the beginning of a round, the players will spin this spinner here, and it will show which of the 3 types of ants gets an extra movement that turn. Normally ants can move 3. This lets them move 4. If you spin in here, then you decide which one it's going to be. When ants move out on the main board, if they are a soldier ant and they end their turn on a bug, you are going to take a bug that matches that one, and you're going to cover it up. Now, you have these pheromone tiles that players will have, and these tiles will cover it up if it's next to your hole or next to another pheromone tile. Otherwise, you'll just cover up with a generic one. Pheromone tiles are worth a point at the end of the game, and also other ants can't cross your pheromone tiles, so leading a trail here can be very handy. Your harvester ants, when they land on a berry, will do the same thing, except they're going to get a berry or a mushroom instead of the bugs. So soldier ants hunt bugs, harvester ants get the berries and mushrooms. The digger ants are going to mostly be working down here. Now, unlike the ants on the surface, they can't just run around. You actually have to dig holes so they can move here and stop, and then you can dig to here, etc. And each time you dig, you're going to be putting these tiles down to show that it's dug, and then you're going to get a terrain tile of the same type. So you're collecting terrain tiles, you're collecting bug tiles, and you're collecting the fruit tiles. The reason you're doing that is because of these cards here. Now, these cards are handled differently in the games. In some games, they're in your hand, and in some games, they're public. In the advanced game, they're public. So if I have this card here, and I manage to collect these 3 tiles, I turn it in on my turn, and I get 9 points. This is the main way to get points. Here, if I have 3 sand tiles, I'm going to get 14 points. And here, if I have 2 ladybugs, I'm going to get 7. So these are usually 1, 2, or 3 of the different things that you're going to get. You can get more of these cards by going here to the library. You send an ant there to draw 2 and pick 1 to keep. So that's how you get more of them into your hand. And like I said, there's also, in the advanced game, there's also public ones that everybody can go for. In the advanced game, there's also special cards that players will start the game with. From a deck of cards, these cards can do anything from giving you points when you take a specific action or giving you a special ability that you can take. Players also can have a special ability based on what color ant they have. And so some ants, like this ant here, has an extra movement. This ant here can put out more pheromones than anyone else. The black ant can attack twice during the nighttime, etc. Speaking of attacking, those predators, I mentioned that was one of your actions that you could do. So when you have a predator, you simply are going to put the grasshopper somewhere on the board, and he'll eat one of the things. You'll cover it up with a tile. The spider will do the same thing, but he will eat a bug. And the worm is going to go into someone else's area, and it's going to eat one of their dirt pieces. Now, if in the dirt pile, in the top 3 spots, you'll notice, it's hard to see here. We'll zoom up a little bit to make it a little clearer. You'll see there's a 2, 3, and a 4 there. That's because when you dig into those dirt piles, you have a chance to put a new hole on the board, and it has to be 3 spots away from your previous one, but it gives you a new place for ants to come out and move on the board. The game is going to end when a certain number of missions have been accomplished. At that point, you will basically add up the points for those missions. You'll get points for pheromones that are on the board, and then whoever accomplished the most missions of each type, so for example, whoever finishes the most digging missions will get some extra bonus points. There might be, if you're playing the advanced game, some bonus points from these, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Alrighty, well, first of all, there's a lot to talk about with this game, so let's get started. First of all, the components are really cool. I like the ants. Like I said, they're kind of a pain to put together, but once they're together, they look great. Those 3 predators, neat models. The board is colorful and bright, but at the same time, pretty easy to find what you're looking for. I'm looking for caterpillars. Boom, 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 boom. There's caterpillars on the board. There's a lot of pieces, though, so it will take a bit to set up and put down. And for a kid's game, there's more pieces than most. And I'm hesitant to even say it's a kid's game. This is a kid's game if adults are playing, I think. But there's a lot of pieces in the box. You certainly get your money's worth. The only component I really don't like that much is the spinner. Spinners are like so last century type thing. Spinners are maybe a neat idea. This is not a good spinner, and I'd rather there just be a die you roll or something, or you just move it in each turn one of the different types. I don't know. There just could be a better way, I think, than a spinner. Rules. Well, the rule book is atrocious. It's pretty bad. It's very difficult. Like I said, there's 3 ways to play. They kind of mold into each other. One of the basic things about ants moving was confusing. Fortunately, that's online. I know they're coming out with a 2nd edition of the game that will have better rules in it. And I think you can find online the answers to most of the problems. But yeah, the rules are a bit bad. And the thing is, they shouldn't be, because the game itself is not that hard. You have an action on your turn. Activate a predator, take a new ant, or move ants on the board. Speaking of the actions, the predator action, really, if you think that that's kind of mean, and it's not really that mean, because you can like go kill a bug, but you can't really, it doesn't hurt people that badly. Maybe if they really needed that bug and it's the only bug left on the board. But if you think they're bad, you could just take them out of the game, right? You don't have to use the predator things. But they're kind of like a way to be a little interactive, but not too mean. Most of your interaction is going to be running around on the board and grabbing stuff before other people do. Taking new ants, though, that's just like a guaranteed thing. If you're not grabbing new ants on your turn, that's crazy, because like most worker games, this one, definitely you need more of them. Now, the getting resources and accomplishing goals, that is a very fun, simple thing for people to do. Hey, I need 2 caterpillars. I'll get 2 caterpillars. Takinoko, a panda game that's very popular, has a similar mechanism. And so I think if you like Takinoko, you will like this too. Because the concept of the game, even the most advanced game here, is simply get this stuff to complete this goal. Get this stuff to complete this goal. And most people get that. And because there's only a certain number of goals before the game is over, it doesn't outstay its welcome. This game is easily played in less than an hour. You'll probably spend more time setting up and explaining the rules than you will. No, that's not true. But what I'm saying is it's pretty fast. Turns are fast too. I move an ant, you move an ant, you move an ant, I'll take an ant. Oh, activate a predator, I'll move an ant. And it just goes around. Turns are pretty quick. It's not a deep strategic game. Sometimes you get lucky in a card draw. You're looking for the right mission, and ooh, I actually have the stuff for this. But overall, I feel like it offers some strategies. The digging underneath the ground, those cards are worth many more points than the other cards. However, you don't get points at the end of the game for pheromones, which come above the ground. And if you don't get your pheromones above the ground cranking, you might get blocked into a section, and you don't want to do that. Fast, fun, I like it. Brilliance. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!